Chicago, Chicago, that toddling town, Chicago, Chicago, I'll show you around.
The corner was our magic, our music, our politics. Fires raised as tribal dances and war cries broke out on different corners. Power to the people.
And just say Shot City. If you don't know by now, I'm talking about Shot Town. And just say Shot City, Shot City.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the Sunnyside podcast. This is episode 21. And I'm here with all three of our hosts are here today. It's myself, Kasabez Maakmaah.
Nehez, Meniooh.
Debasah.
And we are here with Jahzra Shemzura, our special guest, who's kind of a guest, not really a guest, because she's also a member of our organization, but she's here to talk to us about some of the work she's doing. That being said, we'll get to our topic in a minute. We just got done talking for the past, I think, 6 episodes or so about community protection. We're bringing a topic today that's a little bit related to that topic as well, and some of the work we've been doing with the Earth Center, trying to communicate and support people who have been imprisoned in the or incarcerated in the prison industrial complex. And our sister Jahzra has been at the forefront of that project with the Earth Center, and we talk about also some of what we have coming up where you can hopefully get involved and we can make this project grow. So welcome, sister.
Thank you.
Right.
Hello.
This this episode is also following up on our periodic series on celebrating 25 years of our mission in Chicago. And also, coming up next year, we're getting ready to be celebrating 30 years of the Earth Center in the West, when Master Naba first came and, came to the United States to begin the mission here. So you'll be seeing some promotions about that. Don't get confused. We're 25 years, wrapping up our 25th year in Chicago and getting ready to start our 30th year in the West in general.
Right. A lot of people don't know that. Well, when Master Naba first came to the United States was 30 years ago, but he didn't come first to Chicago. And it may be surprising to some that he came to Iowa, of all places.
Of all places.
I know that.
It's still surprising to me, so I can understand if others are surprised as well.
And in coming to Iowa, even he expressed that he came and he saw how America really was, because we hear so much about kind of the legend of America in third world countries and in places around the world where it's just kind of like, if I could only get to America, problem solved.
The dream.
If I could get to America, even in speaking with many people that live in Africa, in West Africa, they hear like everybody gets a car in America, everybody gets their rent paid in America. Mm-hmm. All of these kind of ideals, all of these ideas that America is just kind of like the land of milk and honey, the land of gold, like it was known in the ancient world. So when he actually got here and saw how America really was, Iowa, when he saw Iowa, but he saw how America really was, and that with the mission that he was coming with that in mind, of, I'm bringing what my ancestors have preserved. I'm bringing what has been preserved in Indigenous Africa, in their education system, in the villages where the media doesn't reach, the media doesn't listen to. I'm bringing that wisdom to people in America that I see need it, because I've heard they're dealing with some problems there. Let me go and bring it. But he said when he came and he saw that nobody really was open to learning in America, everybody thought they knew everything already in America, he even went back right away and like reassessed, like, wait a second, how is this really going to happen? These people don't even want what I have. And then he had to kind of re-strategize. And then he came back to Iowa and then got, the beginning of the mission started. And I think he started it by bringing up that new, fresh perspective coming from Indigenous Africa through publications, through the Bayou Ali magazine. And that's how it slowly got started. And it slowly had to just kind of introduce some things that people would be interested in hearing more about, because he couldn't just be like, hey, you know what, back home, this is what I do, and you can learn now. Nobody was interested in that. So it took him some years to actually get to Chicago. And even I was really hoping to have one of the members that were around before I was around on to explain this, because I wasn't there in the flesh. But even the first time he came to Chicago, the reason he came is because he was invited by a Moorish group for a lecture, the Washita Moors, for a lecture. And he came here and he did that lecture and then just went back to Iowa. And I think while he was here, he heard about the African festival that Elder Sengbei puts on every year. And so he came back to work that and bring some herbs, the herbs that now can be found with on Costa Natural Healing. He brought those to sell at the festival. And then through that, it kind of turned into more and more people being like, oh, wow, you're here and you're bringing this kind of wealth from the culture. We really need you to be here, teaching classes, doing the publishing here, bringing the herbs here. And so that happened 25 years ago, when then he decided, okay, I'll come to Chicago.
Who knew? It's like I'm learning so much just as I sit here, because I've never heard of this fascinating aspect of the mission and the work. And it's really, no matter how long you are in this work, you are always learning another aspect, another dynamic of it. And even the thought that people kind of snub their nose at the work and at him is very mind-blowing for me, because just reading his work, everything that he says is so enlightening, because it's from a perspective that we just don't get in the West. We have a philosophy, a doctrine, a way of approaching life that is very westernized, and it's so far away from our culture. It would seem like whatever he would say, it would at least spark your interest. Like, what are you talking about? What does this mean? Where does this come from? Let me at least try to understand more. But that whole notion of everybody thinking they know everything, that's very commonplace as well. So
yeah.
Even if you don't feel like you know everything, you don't need to.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you have your needs met. You feel like you're good the way things are, and then whatever is aside from that is just it's more work. It's taking me away from the ball game I want to watch, or time I'm spending with my kids, or whatever it is I feel like doing.
Mm-hmm.
And not just that, but so many people that I try to introduce this to, if you are telling them something that is just so uncomfortable for them, it's like if they've lived 30, 40 years looking at life in one particular way, and you come to challenge that, it's too much work, it's too uncomfortable, that people don't even want to hear it. Even if they hear the aspects of the truth that's embedded in it, it's just too difficult for them to now make that type of shift.
So that mission really getting started in Iowa, what he started first, besides the publications and writings, anybody that's trying to change the world, we say writers change the world. Anybody that's trying to affect the world, affect the community, writing is the best way to do it, because whether you're there in person or not, your thoughts can still be heard. So he tried that, but he also was inviting people to his house, because this mission is really about building communities, and communities coming together, sharing their intelligence, their observations, their perspectives on how to utilize the wisdom that's been storehoused in Indigenous Africa in order to bring improvement and new ways to look at problems and solve problems that we face today. And so that he was just opening up his house as a community to have meetings, to ask questions, so that people could come and be like, well, this is really a problem in Iowa. How do you face this back home? All of that. How is that seen back home? And that through that, he was like, oh, wait a second. these people aren't even open to this. Because so often, I think in today's world, even now in social media craze, everybody has a podcast. It's like everybody's opinion, my opinion is just as valuable as yours. And I haven't been educated to see where my opinion ends and where your experience and the wisdom that you're bringing starts. So it's just like if you bring me something and it's not mine, it has no more valuable than what I could think up in the moment.
Well, the thing is, we're so used to functioning based on our opinions, you know, that you feel like someone coming outside telling you something is just an opinion, just like your opinion.
Right.
You don't really even see the difference between someone based on experience or even someone's knowledge that's based on generations of experience versus whatever your own opinion is about something based on what this or that actor said or this or that politician said or whatever.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Cassiopeia of TBM 360. And I just want to tell you a little bit about the importance of Juneteenth. So, for Juneteenth, we celebrate our ancestors and how they got us to freedom and they got themselves to freedom. If you didn't know, 1863 is when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. But it took 2 years for all of them to actually find out that they were free. There was no TV, there was no phones, right? Literally, a general from the Northern Army had to go around from plantation to plantation to plantation, letting people know, hey, you don't own them anymore, and hey, you're free to go, right? So it took those 2 years to get to the last town in Galveston, Texas, and let our ancestors know, hey, you're free to go. So we celebrate Juneteenth because of the 400 years prior to that our ancestors shed blood, shed tears, worked from their backs, got taken from their land. And we celebrate to also honor them for being able to strive and make it through and for us to be here, right? So we celebrate them, we uplift them, we honor them on this day. We say thank you. And we think about how we're going to keep progressing forward. Peace, y'all. Happy Juneteenth.
I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't really come back to talking about the mission a little bit, because we in Kebtah and the Earth Center, we're kind of seeing where we do so many different things and we have a lot to offer, that sometimes we get stuck on some of the individual things that we have to offer, and then we lose track of really presenting what the Earth Center is as a whole. And I think, probably, if we want to start this conversation off, we can all maybe give a little bit of background or insight into how we see it. The whole idea of the mission is like bringing something to offer humanity that we haven't had access to in a long time, which is something based on knowledge, based on spiritual values, based on, research of higher levels of understanding of existence that's been ongoing for over 10,000 years. That nowadays we're in a country where values are constantly redefining. We don't know whether we're coming or going. And now we're going back and questioning everything that we ever thought was a reality. We don't have to do that if the society is stable. So why are we doing that now? Is because we don't really have a clear and solid model to follow as people. So what the mission is bringing is something that's based on much more stable and well documented understanding of how to go about life, and it's something that we've been sorely missing here.
But what about the mission kind of stuck out to you when you first found it?
There are so many things, and Kasabez touched on a few of them. One of the things that stood out to me the most was how happy everyone was when I traveled to Meniooh. Even when I traveled here to the temple, everyone seemed to just be very kind to one another. And I had not experienced like genuine kindness amongst people. Everything is always calculated. Your kindness is calculated as to what am I going to get for this. And I use this example often because it was something that was most profound to me when the first time I had to go pump water for myself at a well. And you're amongst these people who are seemingly poor, but they're yet so very rich in their spirit, in their culture, in their just connectivity to the natural world around them. And me, I'm all thumbs because I'm in this land that I don't know how to really navigate, how to survive, how to get along, but I'm doing like my best to do so. And I had to go pump water, and there's like probably 20 little boys, all ages from probably 3 to 4 up to 13, 14. And they'd see me coming with my bucket, and they just run to the well. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Because I can't speak the language. I don't have any candy. I don't have any gum. I don't have any fruit. I have nothing to offer these children. So they're like trying to take my bucket from me. And I'm like wrestling back with it like, no, I got it. And they were so insistent upon pumping this water for me. Mm-hmm. They pumped the water, their little arms just moving. Mm-hmm. And all I could do at the end of it, they handed me the water, and all I could do is try to say thank you in their language. They giggled, and then they ran off. Mm-hmm. So I'm standing there like just dumbfounded with my bucket of water, like they didn't want anything from me.
Right.
Nothing.
It was just their duty.
It was just their duty.
And they're happy to get it done.
Happy to do it.
And you're like, where's my bribe? What can I do to pay you off?
I didn't give them anything. And then I started just observing from that day forward. When I went back to the compound, I saw the little girls. The mothers would come with their vegetables and the babies on their back, and the little girls would just take the babies, take the groceries, put the stuff away, start cutting up vegetables. And I'm just looking like, who are these people?
Where am I?
Am I really? Because it's like, I know as a teenage girl, there was no way you could get me to cook, clean, take care of children, and do all these things smiling and just joyfully going about my day. And I'm like, this is something that's so freaking incredible and amazing for young people to be functioning like this. But it's with the little children all the way to the elders. It was like there was this consistency of this natural, genuine kindness. And that's what I wanted. So that was the thing that I took away the most. And I saw that in the people, not just in the village, but when I came back here, I could see people really trying to emulate that way of behavior. So that was the most amazing thing that I've been able to take away.
How about you, Jahzra?
What was the question? What's attracted you to the mission?
Yeah, what aspect of the mission kind of attracted you, stuck out to you most?
I mean, if we're speaking about the onset, I was a person that was deeply immersed in academia after having been in grad school for many years. And even when I first came across the Earth Center, I was in law school. So it was another world, right? Like I would take the train from Harlem down to Brooklyn, and I was very focused on just taking these classes that I had signed up for. I didn't know there was like a whole way of life and like a community I was coming into. I just was interested in what I had heard about the nature of the classes and the knowledge that was coming out of it. And I've always been a seeker, in spirituality, I guess, if you will. The spirit's always been looking for something. And I think most of us come in that air, right? We've always been looking for answers, for the truth. And I mean, for me, it was just that simple. Once I got to the Earth Center and I started taking classes, it was like, this place has all the answers to the questions. And I think, when we talk about the mission, and the reality is that it has what everybody's looking for, which is like seemingly very simplistic, but has become very complex because we're so distant, or we've been taken so far away from what reality really is. And so, I mean, if people at some point in time could come to life and they didn't have to figure out, who am I? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? All of those things that are everybody seems to be always looking for and then getting lost and distracted, me included. I mean, master's in South Asian studies, a master's in education, law degree, like just this constant pursuit of what am I supposed to be doing, you know? And so to come somewhere and then start to get a foundation and an understanding for what I am as a human being. And the beautiful thing is that journey started in 2008, and I'm still in that journey and still learning those things because there's so much to learn, right? And so, for me, it really, it's just that simple. The questions were answered in some of the basic ones in a very short period of time. And so the spirit didn't need to continue seeking. It was like it found home, you know?
Yeah, thank you for that. I can say for myself, what really stuck out for the mission was being a child born in America, in the community of America known as African Americans, Black Americans, that knowingly got disconnected from their ancestry. That aspect of the mission stuck out most, where it was like, this is a mission started from traditional Africa, not colonized Africa, not conquered Africa, not, enslaved Africa, but traditional Africa, in order to take responsibility and secure the future of Africa. They're the ones to define it, instead of continuing to let it be defined by others. And that aspect of the mission, and seeing now for the first time I could find it, there's somebody from that cultural identity now talking about spirituality, now talking about philosophy, now talking about how to see the world, now talking about the tools and the practices and the understanding that they've used and their ancestors have used to solve the problems that everybody has to face, no matter where they are on the planet. But what I saw growing up and what we see around, today's big cities, not just in America but other places too, is that our ambition for material success and success in the modern world allows us to be okay with giving up the history that we come from, the language that we come from, the customs we come from, in order to achieve the success we're looking for. But this organization that was saying, you don't have a future, you don't have a destiny if it's not based on where you're coming from. And if you've been missing where you're coming from, this is like the way that history has worked. Africa has contributed to the history of every continent. And so we can help you to kind of understand that history, even on a different level, no matter where you're coming from, no matter what community you're in, but especially for the descendants of those enslaved that had a clear disconnection. Then it was like, okay, there's something here I can move on, and it's not somebody's interpretation from outside of the culture I've been disconnected from. It's actually somebody who teaches there, who pushed their understanding inside that culture, and is saying, you know what, I have a way for you to start to understand things from an authentic perspective. And not only that, I have a way for you now to become a part of a community that's trying to now affect change from that perspective. And that part really stuck out to me.
Well, for me, from a child, there was just, like Jahzra said, there's a lot of unanswered questions. And, we pass over all these questions. What am I here for? What is life really about? And things like that. And then it's like, I'm looking around me at the adults in my life. Nobody seems to clearly really know what they're doing, and then different problems arise. You don't know how to handle it. Problems with relationships, problems with work, problems with housing, basic stuff, problems with health, and it's like no clear answers as to what to do about everything. And then, at the same time, they're setting me on a life track. Like, you go to school, and what's really the purpose? So you can get a job and then work so you can have money, so you can pay for, stuff. And I'm like, it can't really just be all what it is, you know. And then if you're looking for anything outside of that, then you have to go to church, and they're telling you need to believe in something. But the problem is, you know, at the same time, I'm learning about people in other parts of the world who believe different things. It's like, okay, my parents, my people are telling me to believe in this, and if you don't believe in this, you're going to hell, you're going to burn an entire eternity in fire. But other people are saying that this is not the right belief, and there's other beliefs, you know, and their belief is equally like as damning if you don't if you don't follow it, you know. And then I look and say, well, there's these Greek myths, and nowadays, 2,000 years later, everybody's saying that this is clearly not the truth. But the funny part is, sometime in history, people were believing it like just the same way we're believing in the Bible. So in another 2,000 years, what are they going to be saying about us? We were following mythology, you know? Or is it the truth? I don't know. So it's like, nothing is really giving conclusive answers. So that kind of started me on a search, eventually leading me to this mission, which, you know, has everything that everyone else already said that I don't really need to repeat. But yeah, it just was a search, really. You know, you can't, like you were saying before, people who feel like they already found what they need, they're not going to go looking for something, you know. And then you can talk to them till they're blue in the face. They're not going to be ready to listen, because if it's not based on whatever they feel like is feeding them, then, you know, they don't need it. But you know, if you watching this, you feel like you're looking for something, you know, then there's something here. You might as well look into it if there's nothing else you found that really works.
Well, the thing too that stuck out to me early on, or let me say, what I spoke on before, was when I first touched the organization, got a taste of the mission as it reached me in my home where I was. I wasn't in Chicago. When I first came and met Master Naba, then what floored me is that this person is genuinely interested in what I have to bring, contribute. The perspective I have, he's there listening to it. Even so well, where it's like he calls me on when it don't make sense. And then it's another thing, because now it's like he's not there thinking he has everything, he don't need to learn from me. He has everything, he doesn't care about what I'm bringing. He's actually there saying, I know I have something from my ancestry, my culture. What is it you bring? I'm interested to know. And then if you have something, how are we going to work together to make things better? If you don't have something, I have a lot you can learn from. And that is different than just like, I'm coming, bringing something to impose on you. No, every person in the community can become, in a healthy world, every person from their household, from their family, is coming to contribute something in order to work in a society to make everything better. And so to see an organization just proudly, unapologetically saying, no, I'm from Africa, I'm African. I'm putting it in quotes because, you know, you find out in reading the material from that organization that that's even a foreign term, but this is my identity. I'm proud of it. Let me tell you how we would do things to solve those problems. And then maybe it can help affect better solutions here. And so we're really bringing our attention back to this because we just spent 6 episodes of identifying serious problems going on in Chicago, but not just Chicago, around America. Like Kasabez was saying early on, you look at the numbers of deaths by murder, by homicide, by suicide in America, and you juxtapose or contrast that with deaths by murder, by homicide in Burkina Faso, and it's way different. And the only time it even starts to get closer is when we're talking about a terrorism situation in Burkina Faso that the whole world should take note of. And the people there have to stand up and be like, do you guys see what's happening here? People are claiming to come and help us. They're not. They're making it worse. That kind of situation has to happen in order for their numbers even approach the numbers that are just happening in some states in the South in America. Just to approach. They're in a terrorist situation where there's code red, don't travel there. But you don't hear that the numbers stay like that regularly in America. So we just went through a series of talking about what kind of epidemic, mental epidemic, cultural epidemic we're in, to where life doesn't have that value. Our children are out here killing each other. Adults are out here killing each other, killing themselves, because the stability in the identity, the clarity in our own identity and what life is and how valuable it should be is lost. So now, is there something in this mission that can help from a people that don't seem to suffer from those same problems? How did they solve it? And so that's really why we wanted to bring Jahzra on, because her having, like she said, studied in law, been involved in the criminal system, the criminal defense, and what she saw this mission could really bring in helping people that get stuck in that world. Because for those of us, even what's come out in this series is that's big business for America now. The prison industrial complex is big business. For people outside of America who maybe are seeing America as the place where the roads are paved with gold, they don't understand that gold is refined and built into bricks. I mean, there is no gold. Don't get me wrong. But if it is, it's refined and built into bricks and license plates by inmates. That's the only way it functions. America depends on slavery that's happening in the prison industrial complex and on the profit that they make by imprisoning people in the prison industrial complex. So really, in seeing that as such a huge problem we face in America, even coming to define the way society works, the way people's destiny will be hijacked from them in life, the way that now even in America strategies are set up, equations are set up to see what number of people are at what level in school, so that we know how many people will be filling the prisons and bringing us that free labor. That's the situation we're in America now. And for somebody who was involved in that system, trying to fight in that system, how they saw the mission, important to that. And so we welcome you, Jahzra. I know you've already started talking, but can you say a little bit about that, like what being in law school and then coming into this, kind of the impact that this mission had on you and the thoughts that you kind of had from that?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. This is a part of my life that I don't really think about or talk about much anymore, because it seems like a long time ago. But before I went to law school, I was working in criminal defense. I connected in with a criminal defense attorney who had success in releasing a brother who was part of the United Freedom Front, people who were connected in with the Black Liberation Army. And so he was, this Jewish lawyer in Boston who was well known and very good at his work. And I was lucky to land in his office and kind of assist him and assist this brother who he had released from prison. And because of his name was Kazi, and because Kazi got out, because of his lawyer, he dedicated his life to working for the lawyer. And he was kind of like his, assistant as well. So the three of us were working together in the office. And through Kazi, I was getting, to see different things that were going on in the community of people like fighting for freedom and, justice and things like this. And I learned a lot in that process. And that was like the initial spark for me of really criminal justice and what's going on in the prison system, being able to answer the phones of inmates that are calling on a daily basis who want to know what's going on with their cases, how they're going to be able to get out, how long do they have, young people getting locked up for second degree, first degree murder. It was, just an eye-opening experience. So from there, I went to law school, and the law school that I attended in New York City, Benjamin Cardozo, is actually one of the things they're well known for is the Innocence Project. And if you're familiar with the Innocence Project, Barry Scheck, who was one of O.J. Simpson's lawyers, started that project to help exonerate, people who are wrongfully committed, specifically utilizing DNA evidence. And so I got to kind of be in that environment and work with some of the people that were connected in with the Innocence Project. And so I continued my interest in research in criminal defense. And that was, what I focused on in law school. And coming out, we got to take clients while we were in there. So I got to go, into the jails. I got to represent as a student under a professor, in some cases and things like that. And then from there, I worked in the court alongside a judge who does criminal cases. So that was the first thing I did coming out of law school for a year. And those last, 2 years of law school, I was also starting my work in the mission of the Earth Center. So mind you, that was like an interesting balance of being in these two worlds, and both of which I was very committed to. And still, had knowing that what I'm learning principally coming out of Indigenous Africa and tradition and all of that is absolutely necessary for a foundation. I still have a fire for helping the people that I was helping. And so even, during that time, I started writing to, some brothers that were locked up, like Sundiata Akolai and Mutulu Shakur, and just trying to get an understanding, because these are people who've been in for decades after, fighting for liberation and things like this. And so, that interest was there. And so, but once I finished law school, I did the year clerkship in the criminal courts. I started to recognize that, okay, I do want to help people, but how is this really going to work in the system?
And what really brought on those questions, because you made reference to living in both worlds was difficult. What were you seeing? What was the contrast? And then how did that contrast even lead to being like, is this really helpful?
Well, when you're going into the court systems, there's a whole process and procedure and a system that you have to bow to and that you have to fit into. And so even when you look at how a court case goes from inception, and then if it ever ends, it can take your lifetime, right? So somebody who, let's just say, is wrongfully convicted, they could be wrongfully convicted and trapped within that system with all the bureaucracy and paperwork to get through things. It's like nothing for the system to. A person can get excited about coming to court, like this is the day, and then you got to go through leaving the prison and getting transported all the way there, and all of that only to be told like your case is continued till like 5-6 months from now, and that's nothing, to the system, right? But that's your life. And so looking at the way that it's still a job, it's also noticing there's so many people that are making an income and supporting their family off the backs of prisoners, right? Because that's how the judges, the lawyers, the security guards, the transcriber, like there's just this whole thing, right? And that's, every city has that. So there were a lot of layers of things where I was looking at this, and then also learning in this mission that there's some fundamental building blocks that are missing in that system. That how am I as one single person going to make the change that in your dream you would wish that you could make, right? Because I'm looking at the William Kunslers and like the Barry Shecks and the Johnny Cochrans going like, I want to do that, you know, because you just see their victory moments. But also working with Barry Wilson, the lawyer that I work with, like I could see the way that all the lives that he was responsible for and the ones that he couldn't keep out of jail because he lost in trial was taking a toll on his own health and his own life, you know. Just to get out of bed some days, it was like I had to cancel his cases because he just couldn't. Wow. And so like the heaviness of that was very real. And so looking at all of these different things and then looking at myself, I was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And then also, of course, like becoming, you know, a wife and a mother and all of that. It's like, okay, how does this all really fit into like one equation? Because now I have people I'm responsible for and trying to go into court and, you know, I mean, there's a lot, like when you go into jail and things like that, there's a lot you will have to contend with on different levels, right? So yeah, that kind of had me reconsider the direction that I was going in. And I think, you know, I mean, everybody has like the person in Africa who has the dream of coming to America. Us in America have our dreams too, you know? So I'm a person that, I'm a fighter, you know, I want to fight for something. So that was where I was investing my fight. But I realized like, okay, let me adjust this. And I mean, I'm very grateful this mission still gives me something very powerful to invest in and fight for and share with people. And we can do it until, you know, we go to the grave. It's not like we have to retire from what we're doing here. Yeah. And it does, I mean, it can take a toll, but it's not the same kind of toll that I was witnessing with people that are going in and out of the courts, in and out of the jails, visiting their clients every day. So that's like the background to it.
Yeah, that's great. We say it's not because of fear that the ram backs up, you know. And when we are in a fight and we see this may not be the most effective way, and then you back up just to fight stronger, you know. That's
And it's interesting because, you know, like as a young person, you probably do have a lot of that drive and fire within yourself, thinking that I can make a difference, I can make a change, I can do this, I can do that, because you're looking at the people ahead of you that they must not have done it right. Something about them, I have something unique, I have something special that I can add. But if you look at it, this is a system in place, and it is functioning the way that it is supposed to function. There's nothing wrong with the system. It is not flawed. It is purposefully built to keep people on that cycle, in that trappings.
It depends on
it's like people are coming in, going out, in and out of court, this and that and the other. It's like a job, you know. It's like a system that's already functioning the way that it's supposed to. So anyone with that spirit, with that desire, like even those attorneys that you're talking about, those young interns that are there to assist those young people who got some sort of vindication, and it's like, well, now I want to dedicate my life to this. And you look at what you're up against, and it's so profound. But then you compare that to a culture, you compare that to a system that they don't even have, you know, in traditions. There was no such thing as prisons. There was no such thing as jail. There was no such thing as the crime that we see here. And that was something that was also very interesting when I started with this mission as a member here. Yeah,
because we were talking about killings and deaths and stuff like that. That's not even to talk about things such as theft, robberies, you know, just all types of smaller scale crime that you don't really see in
you don't hear. And that's what, like, my family was so concerned with me traveling to a third world country. Are you going to be safe? Is it okay? Are you know, what's going to happen to you there? And I was there for 3 weeks and never saw a police car, never heard a siren, never heard, you know, gunshots, anything like this. And it didn't dawn on me until after 3 weeks. I saw like a security guard or something like this, and it was just shocking to me, like how much fear they put in us about the systems there and the culture there, when our system, I'm sure we probably have 50,000 sirens going on in the city of Chicago.
You don't even notice them anymore.
You don't even notice.
They fade into the background.
Eating.
Even the gunshots, it's like, oh, there's another one.
Yes. And I can remember when I was in Burkina Faso, and there was like a crime had happened and people were killed, and we heard about it here in Chicago. And it was like, oh, that's so sad. But we continued to eat. We continued to do what we were doing, where the people who were from Burkina Faso were crying, sobbing, so concerned. And I'm like, did you know those people? They're like, no, but they're Burkina Bay and this, that, and the other. And that was that whole thing, like, wow, they are really like good, kind-hearted people to even care, where I could just continue eating my lunch while I'm watching the news about the criminal system,
because that's what they show us every time you watching. If you have the news on while you're eating dinner, and they tell you that every time, so was shot at 5 a.m. in the morning last night, or over the weekend, what is it, Saturday, and on a day like this, it's not rare for us to turn on the news tonight, tomorrow night. How many people were killed today? How many people were killed or shot over the weekend?
You're numb to it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, we desensitized, and we really wanted to have that series on community defense because we're going into the summer now. And now things are starting to pick up and the streets are starting to get activated. And now even watching the news, yesterday it was talking about how many youth died just from catching bullets on the street, and it really brings you back to what Jahzra was saying, and just what she was realizing in the system is that the system has the regard for life is secondary. Then what needs to happen to maintain the system and keep these people who get paychecks from the system in place, to where now even the system needs people's lives to be put underneath it. But
well, it always has.
But yes, of course. But the fact is that these people have lives. And when Giziribtah says that there were no prisons in traditional culture, that might be hard for us to grasp in America because we live in different worlds. And there's always the possibility of a very severe misunderstanding when we're trying to cross cultures and trying to understand what others do. And that's why it's so easy for our media in the West to be like, look at these other people and you should just judge them. We don't understand them, just judge them. Nobody says it like that, but that's really what they're saying too. But if you hear people live, and they were living in their societies with no prison
and no police,
then we tend to think, oh, they just didn't know well enough. They must have been in danger.
But then you see, like Giziribtah saying, you in the bush, in the middle of nowhere, and then you with people that you don't know, and you have all this, and even you coming in as an outsider, and you have all these cameras and computers and money and all type of stuff that the people don't have, and you feel 100% safe, like nothing's going to happen to you. How is that? There's no police, there's no military, there's no like secret button you can press and then call in a drone strike or something like this. You're just by yourself or just with a small group of people. And everybody in the area within the 10-mile radius probably knows these people just came from somewhere else in these fancy trucks.
And we tend to have the idea that it's poverty that makes people
do crime.
Right. And it's so not.
And it's really being promoted now, like you have an excuse.
And exactly. So the criminal feels justified if they carjack you. They feel justified if they rob you. They feel justified if you get killed during their crime activity, because I'm poor, you have more than I do, and I'm going to take what you have to equal the playing field. And that is just so the way that our minds are conditioned, because we're in a culture, we're in a paradigm that is just so different than what life is all about. Right. We develop all these opinions, we develop all these ways of life and approaching life that's so far against reality, that's so destructive, so self-destructive, but we don't even know it because that's all that we're exposed to. And so when you're only exposed to that, you're going to perpetuate that. how they say that the human brain doesn't invent, it only copies. If that's all you see, that's all you're going to copy. So you can't even blame the young little boys who come up with that type of mentality and they grow up to perpetuate that. It's like they have nothing else but that type of conditioning.
Well, you can't blame them, but they end up getting blamed because they're the ones in jail, and whoever's telling them that they had a good reason for doing the crime because they lacked this or that, or because they had this or that trauma and experience, those are the ones like sending them to the prison, basically.
So I just want everybody to really think about that, because it was only in meeting this organization, the Earth Center, when I heard that. We don't have prisons in our place. And that's because every life that comes to Earth comes with space made for it. Therefore, there's a destiny it's coming to live out. And if you imprison somebody, you cancel that destiny. They can't achieve it. And now you're even now kind of getting into Earth's way of what it needs, because everybody came here to fulfill something for their spirit, for their family, for their Earth. And now you imprisoning them as a system because of your laws. Now you let that cancel. Every single one of us make mistakes, have to fix those mistakes, learn how to fix them. You imprison somebody, there's no fixing. And then there's no carrying out whatever you're here to do. So to have a system now, a nation now, a way of looking at life where it's like, your life's not that important. If I can win the court case, your life isn't even valuable enough to even be free enough to try to accomplish whatever you're here to accomplish.
And they give you so much freedom too, because it's like they give you the pathway to do anything that you want. You're free to do anything you want, achieve what you want to do what you want to be, what you want to be.
And then the music is on the radio saying do this, do that. On the TV and the movies and the video games, it's like you could do this, you could do that. It's all crime, killing, and all of that. And then
so there's like
you go out in the world and do it.
There's the aspect of the destiny that you're talking about, but then there's also the aspect of just the principles that everybody lives by, right? So if there's like an individual self-responsibility to follow and live life in a certain kind of basic foundational way, and then the community all has a similar understanding of that, then you don't need police, you don't need a justice system, right?
Self-governing.
Yeah.
Thank you, and that's why you're our honored guest today. I wanted to ask you, back to your work, once you got more involved with the Earth Center, what kind of inspired you to start your prison project, and what is that really about?
Yeah, so I mean, just connecting back to where I left off, it's like, okay, well, I still have this passion or this fire for what's going on in the prison system, and how is it that these principles and this foundation that we're talking about and that we're now exposed to, that every human being needs in some form or another, because to live a life that's valueless or principle-less or lacking a foundation or is just full of freedoms and liberties, we know that's not getting you anywhere. And we see where that's getting us, and that's why we're here talking about this. But so then, it was inspiring to think about, when I started getting involved with the Earth Center, I could see there was a lot of inmates, people locked up that were writing to the Earth Center already. And so being here in Chicago and getting those letters like somewhat routinely, I started getting involved and responding to some of those people, and then sending products where we could, like magazines and things like this, books if it was allowed in the particular facility, and so
which even in just the last 10-15 years has gone way down. The possibility of getting those in has been a lot harder.
Yeah, I think I recently sent something that got sent back. Yeah, and they have the requirement of it coming directly from the publisher, which in our situation we do have, but it can still get rejected. So, then just through my own studies and involvement, I started to think, okay, like how can we bring this to that population of people? Because we could probably get some of our most dedicated people in that setting, because now you got people that have nothing but time and something that they want to be driven to invest in. And a lot of us who are on the outside here, sometimes we don't get to sit and really think about and talk about and dive into what we have, because we have our minds and our bodies in so many different places, invested and distracted in so many different things. But when you're in there, it's like, wait, these people don't really have a lot else to do. So how can we bring this knowledge to them? And also seeing that like people we were writing back and forth with would be sharing the materials they were getting with other people on their block and things like that. So, I'm like thinking, okay, these are people who could just sit with the 77, the Code of Human Behavior and just talk about it and really work on that and be doing their purifications and their practices and whatever, and really be invested and be making transformations, because you're talking about a system that's supposed to be rehabilitative. Like, that's a joke, right? Nobody really gives a shit whether anybody's rehabilitating behind bars, because then it would look like something completely different. So This is the stuff that people need in order to be rehabilitated. We needed it on the outside. So surely, people who have been taken through the system the way that many of them have, as us, we can all benefit from it. So that was sort of one or a couple of the driving forces to get this prison project started. And it just in the onset of it seemed like something very promising, to get going. So I was able to in Baltimore just get it off the ground. I started going into, I think that was a maximum security facility, but as a woman, I couldn't go into the men's side. I went into the woman's side of the facility, and I was able to go a few times and gather with women, and there were a good number of invested or interested women, and we would just either take like a passage that we could read and like discuss, a concept or like a principle, something to introduce, something for them to take back and read and discuss and talk about, so that we could meet again and like build on that. And it wasn't easy trying to kind of like get in there, and ideally you have a team of people, because you want strong representation to be able to go in and have good conversation. And even like everybody learns in different ways, so have kind of activities or things people can do a little bit experientially. So I was still in the very beginning stages of trying to consider like, what can this look like, or what can it become? But with my history and then with where I've landed with the mission, that was sort of the drive behind it. And then shortly after starting there, we relocated to West Africa. So that kind of, became put on pause, if you will.
Right.
But I will say right now, just because post-COVID, there's so much online stuff going on. So my thinking right now is, is there a possibility of trying to get connected in through like the online, the virtual space, if there are facilities that are allowing educational programming to happen with those on the inside, being able to take classes, and I don't know if that would be like registered institutions and things like that, what all the bureaucracy would be. But I think that would be another nice way to still be able to connect in and get the people the knowledge.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This being America, kind of the land of bureaucracy and bureaucratic tape, even, the little that I was able to work on it with you. I remember running into the challenge of, if you are not a university, if you are not a religious organization, there's some states you just can't even penetrate. Some, prison systems, depending on the state they're in, you can't even penetrate. We were lucky enough where she could get into Baltimore and start doing the work because of Maryland's rules. But even in trying to set up something like that in Illinois, I think it was like, if it's not a religion, you're not a university, you're not at a standard of what kind of organizations they accept, it's not going to be possible. But I do know that Master Naba early on was working with Dr. Margaret Burroughs, the founder of the DuSable Museum, and she had creative writing programs, probably because she was a museum. Then she could get into the inmate population and was leading creative writing programs, and he was therefore donating, his creative writing with the Night Fire stories and things in the Firefly, to where she would go on and then use those in the class. So I think anybody that has an experience with this mission can just see, like we all are saying, the fundamental things that it brings to kind of replace in those holes that we feel in the modern world, that we all like, there's this aspect that questions I didn't have answered as a child, that I'm grasping for something even as I grow up, or I just find a way to silence it, by ambition or by addictions or by whatever. Anybody that comes and touches just the practicality, how much this makes sense, how human it is, how fundamental it is, can see that it can have a big benefit for, like Jahzra was saying, anybody, but definitely for people who are trapped under the system, in a system where your life, they're showing you day to day, we have no value for your life. Oh, you've been sitting in prison for a year now, you came up for court, you have to wait 6 more months because so-and-so didn't show up. And it's just like, what? So yeah, it seems like very important work that I know, a lot of us in the first generation, when I call it first generation of this organization, because it's like a lot of us got to meet Master Naba, the founder, the one who brought this bridge over here. We may not be able to get everything done as far as getting deep into the prisons, but we see that there's a lot of potential there. There's a need for it, so we got to keep trying, and really want to show appreciation to Jahzra for getting that thing moving, and we got to keep going.
And I want to say for our viewers, our listeners too, that as I stated before, we're putting more of a focus on trying to get more involvement in our communities with the mission. The mission isn't just on people who are coming and taking classes and getting, educated by the organization, but even our communities at large. We are now, have a membership program, what we call the Kebtah community or Earth Center community, where if you're an interested member of the community who wants to partner with us, we are now opening the doors for those type of partnerships, and really trying to encourage that a lot more. So get in touch with us. Our website again is in the description. Thank you. And you can just send us a voice message or something like that, or just email us at chicago@theearthcenter.org, and we'll see how we can get involved, get some kind of a correspondence or collaboration going.
And specifically for this episode, if you are a family member or relative of somebody imprisoned, if you want to try to start to see if what the Earth Center as an organization is doing can benefit them, or even how it can benefit you and the family that they've left outside without them, you can definitely get in touch, and then we can explore those things. If you have any connections to maybe provide that link that Jahzra is saying that she's looking for now, even ways to get into the virtual space to bring the organization's mission back into the prison system, please let us know. Reach out. Any other thoughts about the mission and the prison industrial complex?
I think, those who have just been released as well. Sometimes I forget the name of the kind of places where they get held as like an in-between. But I think those are facilities or institutions that we could also be penetrating as a person is trying to reintegrate themselves back into society. I mean, now you're out, but maybe whatever you had before and the foundation you had before didn't really fare well. So if you're looking for something new, something old but new, that
old to the world,
right, that worked for a long time. I think all of us sitting here, the foundation we have reclaimed or regained through our education, our journey here with the mission of the Earth Center has benefited us. It's benefited our families, and it's just that important time to continue to reconnect people with that. So.
In those re-entry programs, I think that's what they're called.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on. We're not going to keep you too long. We know you are active in the Kebtah mission and its sister organization of Ancasta. Some of you may recognize her from when we had her on the episode of Ancasta, where we were highlighting Ancasta natural healing. But we want to thank you, the viewer, the listener, for tuning in with us once again. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment.
Hit the notification bell.
Hit the bell, all of that good stuff.
And share this on your social media. Share this with people. If you guys are valuing this what we're bringing with the Sunnyside podcast and some of the other programming that we have on our channel, make sure you're sharing the content, because a lot of people I think can benefit from this. You people are sharing all type of goofy videos that have nothing to do with anything.
Cats playing pianos and
right. Share something significant with substance.
And not just that, please share your ideas as well, because as Nehez said at the beginning, this is the way that Meniooh started this mission. This mission was all about sitting in the living room, coming up with solutions. Not one person has the solutions for everything and for everyone. You in your seat, wherever you may happen to be, you might be seeing this from a whole different perspective. You may have some insights that can benefit this mission, this work, this movement that we're trying to bring forward, and give us some ideas. So please share those as well.
Yeah, share the ideas, and in particular right now, with it getting ready to be summer and festival season here in Chicago, we're going to be doing a lot more activities in terms of filming out in the field at different events and trying to get perspective from different cultural organizations. So if you are part of or connected to or aware of different cultural organizations that you think really need to be covered and people need to know about, then share that with us, put it in the comments, or like I said, email us or send us a message on our website, and we can get in touch with these people.
Thanks again. We'll see you next time on the sunny side of the street. Of the city. On the sunny side of the city.
Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street.